Imagine you have a magic credit card. It never gets declined. It can buy anything. But there's one catch. Every year, the interest bill gets bigger. Now imagine, that credit card belongs to a government, and the bill is so huge it's measured in trillions. Not hundreds, not thousands, trillions. Here's the weird part. Most governments don't borrow because they're careless. They borrow because the system pushes them to. In this video, we'll answer one simple question. Why can't governments stop borrowing even when they know it's dangerous? And why does it feel like the bill always shows up right after you finally started saving? Let's start with a very boring sounding word, deficit. A deficit is simple. It means a government spends more money than it collects this year. So what happens when spending is bigger than taxes? The government fills the gap by borrowing. Borrowing sounds scary. But at first, it can look smart because borrowing can fund things people want. Roads, schools, hospitals, national defense, emergency relief. And here's the key idea. Governments don't borrow like you borrow. You borrow from a bank, the bank can say no, and you must pay it back on time. Governments borrow by selling bonds. A bond is basically an IOU. Investors buy those IOUs. They lend money to the government, and the government promises, I will pay you interest, and I will repay you later. So far, so normal. But then a habit forms. Borrowing becomes the easy button. Now we get to the real problem. Once borrowing becomes normal, stopping feels impossible because governments face three big pressures. Think of them as three hands pushing them back onto the borrowing treadmill. Pressure has shown. People like benefits, and they hate cuts. Most budgets are made of promises. Pensions, healthcare, support programs, public salaries, interest payments. These are not maybe spending. They are you must spending. So when leaders say we'll just cut spending, the real question becomes, cut what exactly? If you cut too much, people get angry. Services break. Elections get lost. Protests happen. So leaders try the path of least pain. Borrow now. Deal with it later. Raising taxes is politically painful. Taxes are simple. They take money today. Borrowing is sneaky. It spreads the pain across time. If you want to win elections, later problem sounds convenient. Pressure #3. Emergencies keep happening. Recessions, pandemics, wars, natural disasters, banking crises. When bad things happen, governments spend more and collect less. So deficits grow and borrowing spikes, so the debt grows year after year. And then we reach the scary part, because debt has a shadow. It's called interest. Debt itself is not always the villain. The villain is when the interest bill grows faster than your ability to pay. Here's the simplest way to see it. If you owe a little, interest is a mosquito bite. If you owe a lot, interest is a boa constrictor. And the scariest twist is this. Even if the government stops borrowing new money, it may still have to borrow just to pay the interest. That's the debt spiral. Now add one more ingredient, interest rates. When rates are low, debt feels light. When rates rise, debt feels heavy. Because old debt gets replaced by new debt over time. And the new debt comes with higher interest. So if rates rise fast, the interest bill jumps. And the budget starts fighting itself. More money goes to interest. Less money goes to everything else. That's when governments face three ugly options. Option A, cut spending. This can slow the debt, but it can also slow the economy, and it makes voters furious. Option B, raise taxes. This can help pay bills, but it can reduce spending by households and businesses, and it is politically explosive. Option C, print money. This can pay bills in the short term, but it can push prices up, and it can weaken trust in the currency. None of these options feel good. So governments usually choose a mix: small cuts, small tax changes, and a lot of hoping. But markets don't run on hope. Markets run on confidence. If investors believe the government is stable, they lend cheaply. If investors get scared, they demand higher interest. And higher interest is like pouring gasoline on the fire. That's the climax. Debt grows, then rates rise, then interest explodes. And suddenly the government is borrowing for one reason: to keep yesterday's promises alive. So why can't governments stop borrowing? Because modern budgets are built like a heavy train. Once it's moving, stopping is hard. Turning is hard. And braking too fast can cause a crash. But here's the most important point. Debt is not just a number. Debt is a story about choices. It tells you who gets help now, who pays later, and what risks are being pushed into the future. So what should you watch for as a regular person? 3 simple signals. 1, interest payments as a share of the budget. 2, rising bond yields, meaning borrowing gets more expensive. 3, weak growth, because slow growth makes debt harder to carry. If those 3 move in the wrong direction together, the time bomb gets louder.